Good morning. We have a guest here with us who's going to be speaking here at the National Honey Show 2024 this afternoon. Alan, welcome.
Thank you.
Would you introduce yourself, please? Tell us who you are, what you're here for, and something about your background in beekeeping.
My name is Alan Baxter. I'm a trustee and area Asian Hornet coordinator for Hampshire Beekeepers Association. I've been beekeeping for 7 or 8 years, and I started my beekeeping career in France, where I lived and worked for a very long time. And that's where I first met the Asian Hornet. When I returned to England to resettle with my new wife in 2020, it was natural for me then to become interested in the Asian Hornet because I already had experience of it. So that's when I started to learn more about it and to become involved in Asian Hornet matters in England. I volunteered to be the Asian Hornet coordinator for my county beekeeping association, and then I wrote a strategic plan for dealing with the Asian Hornet. As a result of that, I'm now part of the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Local Resilience Forum, which is a meeting of all the emergency services across sector, and basically raising the profile of the Asian Hornet, raising awareness amongst the public, and getting the public ready, not just the public, but all the local authorities and the emergency services ready for when the Asian Hornet arrives in great numbers, which it probably will at some time in the future, so that we're ready for it. And I decided to write this little booklet because my thesis is that the Asian Hornet is a bit of a disaster for bees, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world. If we adapt our beekeeping to the life cycle of the Asian Hornet and think out of the box a bit, we can successfully learn to get our bees through it and still enjoy our beekeeping, as I did in France. And I had a very good mentor in France who taught me how to do this. And it's his wisdom really that's contained in my book and in my talk this afternoon.
Right. So in your talk this afternoon, obviously, you'll be going into more detail.
Yes, of course.
And so tell us, have there actually been any Asian Hornets found yet in Hampshire?
Yes, we had a very large nest about 3 weeks ago in an old disused cemetery near the centre of Southampton. And the National Bee Unit quickly found it after a report from a member of the public through track and trace techniques, and it was located very high in a tree, surrounded by old gravestones and brambles and ivy and so on. So it was an awful job to get to it, but a pair of intrepid tree climbers hacked their way up to the nest, and with a long lance injected the poison. And then they were able to cut down the nest from the branch on which it was located and kill it, and then sent off to the laboratory for genetic analysis.
So there was a combination of different authorities and forces within the county that had to actually tackle the nest itself.
On this occasion, it wasn't necessary to mobilise any of the emergency services. It was all dealt with by the National Bee Units and the regional inspector, and I was really a spectator, and the 2 tree climbers. So we cordoned off the area. There weren't many people about, fortunately. We cordoned off the area, and we managed to destroy the nest and remove it safely without any incident.
So this was reported by a member of the public?
It was, yes, and it's very important really that the public do keep their eyes open, because at this time of the year, especially with the leaves coming off the trees, nests which are high in trees and are normally invisible can be seen more easily. So we want people to look up when they're out walking the dog or in the street. Look up in the trees, and if you see anything that looks unusual, like a big round ball, then we need to be told. And the best way to do that is to take a photograph using the Asian Hornet Watch app, which is a free download on your phone. And that then sends a signal to the National Bee Unit with a location, and then they validate the sighting, and that then triggers a response locally with the local bee unit and the local Asian Hornet teams to deal with the nest. So it's we really do depend on the public keeping their eyes open and knowing what to look for.
So if you're looking up and you see something that you think might be suspicious, one of the things that I've noticed is that Mistletoe has got a more or less spherical, but it's not very condensed outline.
Yes.
A bird's nest is scruffy.
Yes.
What's the difference? How would it trigger you to think maybe that might be a hornet's nest?
Well, it's a solid ball. They can vary in size from a football to a much bigger structure, like a beach ball, similar to the one that we found in Southampton. And you may or may not see hornets flying in and out of it. If you had keen eyesight, the one in Southampton, you could just see movement of insects in and out of the nest. But I think mistletoe is fairly rare now, and it's all taken down for Christmas anyway. Birds' nests, as you say, they tend to be unscruffy tangles of twigs and branches. But the Asian hornet nest, it's a very clearly defined outline that you will see once the leaves are off. But when they're hidden, it's very difficult.
But they're not always high in trees, are they? Sometimes they're much closer to the ground.
They can be in banks of brambles. In Jersey, they found them deep in brambles there, so it's quite dangerous for people, maintenance workers, farmers, gardeners. They've been found in culverts under roads or under rivers, but always very well hidden.
Well, that's great. So we, the public, need to be vigilant.
Absolutely, yes. And really, we do. In Jersey, I think something like 90% of all the sightings were reported by members of the public. And
those of us that are out and about are often the dog walkers, aren't we?
Indeed, yes. Yes, those are the people we saw in the cemetery.
Great, yes. How did this actually affect your bees and your beekeeping in France?
I had a very good mentor, and at first I panicked because I saw these insects which seemed to be on steroids hovering around my apiary, eating the bees or attacking the bees. And he taught me how I could adapt my beekeeping to the rhythm of the life of the Asian hornet. So during the predation period, which is midsummer to late autumn, you have to lock them down during the day. So you close the hives right down. You have to have all your manipulations done before the predation period starts. And then during the predation period, you have to feed them sugar water, pollen, and ordinary water, as if they were foraging normally. Because when the Asian hornets are there, they don't forage. They cluster around the hive entrance in what's called foraging paralysis. And that causes the queen to stop laying, the colony then withers and dies, and then the Asian hornets go in and take the lot. So if you keep them locked in during the day and let them out at night, well, they don't come out at night, but open them up at night so they can ventilate the hive, keep them cool, and keep them fed with pollen and sugar, then they can get through it. And that's what I did.
Right. So when you were in France, they were just there. The Asian hornets, there was no question of being able to control them. It was just that they were part of the environment around you.
They were there already, yes. And I think by then there wasn't enough awareness of the danger of the Asian hornet, and there weren't enough organized structures in place to systematically find and destroy them. But I think that's changed now. I've been back a few years now, but I think that's changed, and we're determined in Britain to be prepared to learn from the lessons of the Europeans and to be prepared in advance and to have the structures and systems in place so that we can deal with it when it comes.
So now we've got to the time of year, we're getting towards the end of October. Whereabouts are we in the Asian hornet life cycle, and what specifically do we need to look out for, we the public?
This is the time of the year which is called the reproduction period. So young males and young females are being born, emerging in the nests, and they reproduce. Then those newly mated queens go into hibernation. They fly off from the nest into hibernation, and the rest of the nest dies. And we really want to catch them before those queens leave. So it's a critical time for people to report nests when they see them before the queens have gone, because once they've dispersed into the countryside, then we won't see them again.
You're just
until
looking
next
for
year.
One queen that's sneaking into your shed or
exactly, and
somewhere
then
nice
yes,
for the winter.
Yes. Well, there might be 500 queens going into hibernation, but only a small percentage of them will survive the hibernation. But even if it's 5%, that's 25 potential new colonies next year. And that's the way they spread. That's the exponential growth pattern of the spread of the Asian hornet.
Right. So you've written a book about dealing with them, the practical way to cope with them if they're in your area. Tell us about the book. When was it published?
It was published in the spring of this year by Northern Bee Books. It's a booklet, really. It's a very simple guide into how beekeepers can adapt their beekeeping to the life cycle of the Asian hornet and still get them through the predation period and still have some honey at the end of it. So it's good basic beekeeping, but at an enhanced level and modified in terms of timings and deadlines and things like that as to when we do our critical manipulations in the hive. But it works. And what I've done since I came back to England, I've been practicing this in one of my apiaries, and I've had terrific success from it. I had the best honey harvest I've had for
Oh, wow. That's
so
excellent.
I know
Well, I
it
hope
works.
you've entered all your honey into the show downstairs. So the book is available from Northern Bee Books,
Yes.
either direct from their stand downstairs or by post from them.
Yes.
Alan, we'll look forward to your talk later this afternoon. And if you miss it, then you'll be able to catch up with it on YouTube, on the National Honey Show YouTube channel later during the coming year. So don't forget to follow us on social media, follow our YouTube channel, subscribe and like, and please share as well. So thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Val.